Hey everyone, had a couple of requests to do a video on our Qualcomm, so I'm going to show you a few things that we use on this. And you know, I really like using the Qualcomm. I never use the paper logs much though, so I don't have much experience with the paper logs. I've done them here and there, you know, but back before we started expediting, but most of my experience is on the Qualcomm. So I mean, I really like the E-logs. It's pretty simple to use. They don't complicate it like a cell phone. There's all kinds of different configurations or settings or, you know, stuff you got to mess with. It's pretty basic, you know, on how to you know, do your hours of service, how to get your jobs that they send over. They send them over in like kind of like a generic email form. You can reply, send messages, all kinds of different stuff. So I'm gonna show you a bunch of that. I know we've had a bunch of questions of people in our other videos have seen these swinging things hanging from our doors. People have been asking what these are, and basically what they are is it's like a wireless key fob, but it's not for to unlock the doors. What it is it's a panic button. And when you haul like high value freight, you know, secret freight, you know, stuff that's worth a lot of money, millions of dollars, they want to kind of track this stuff. You know, they track you with the satellite monitoring on the Qualcomm. And what these things are is, you can see a little red button here. Whenever we get out of the truck and say we're fueling, or you know, doing our pre-trip, or you know, just anytime we're outside the truck, we got to take one of these with us. And if there was a problem that was to arise, if, you know, gosh forbid somebody tried to hijack us, or if we're in an accident, or you know, whatever an emergency may occur, you know, you would push this button and it sends a message to your dispatch and whoever else is tracking your load that you're having an emergency, and they're gonna try to call you, see if there's a problem, and then probably call the police and have the police dispatch to your location to help you out. So that's what these things are. We got two of them hanging from each side, passenger and driver. So that's what those are. Now let's take a look at the Qualcomm. I'll show you some things on that. Right up here, you got messages. This is where dispatch is going to send you all your jobs. You got an inbox, an outbox, and create a message. So like I said, it's pretty basic. It's like a really basic email system. Probably when like emails first came out, you know, that's all you had: an inbox, outbox, and create a message. So that's all there really is. You can see my inbox is empty. We're all clear. We're sitting at a Home Depot right now waiting for a job. So we don't have any jobs right now, but this is where that would come through. If a message came over, I would over here along this side, there would be a reply, a delete, and then I think a cancel button. But if a job came over, I would hit reply, and then it would give me the option to accept the job or to not accept the job. Basically, just it's a Y or an N for yes or no. Outbox is basically keeps track of all your messages you send out. And then create a message, you got a bunch of different options. They're like preforms. Whenever you get to a pickup, once you arrive to the shipper, you would click on this arrived at shipper. I'll click that. And then you would just hit send, and then it sends a message to dispatch letting them know that you arrived at that shipper. Then when you leave the shipper, you would put depart. Basically same thing. And then when you get to the consignee, your drop off, you would put arrived at the drop off. And then when you're done and you got your signature and you're ready to leave, you would click depart. And that's where you would type in the person's name of who signed for it, and then put your available hours of service left, and and what if you're available, or if you're going out of service, say you just dropped off and you're getting ready to go home. There's a bunch of different options for that. You can put yourself out of service or so on. And then they got a bunch of different forms, things you can send. Another one we use a lot is number 30, is daily vehicle inspection report. What you do is every day you have to send in your pre-trip inspection, letting them know you checked everything, your tires, service brakes, all kinds of stuff. Basically, you would just go through here and you would put Y for service brakes, parking brake, put a Y, steering wheel mechanisms. You just go through and just say you checked all those and they're good and operational. And then down at the bottom you would put the date that this report's for, and then you send it off and it goes to your safety department, and I'm sure they keep a track of that. Let's see what else we got here. So basically that's the messaging stuff. It's really basic, simple to use. On the create a message, say you just wanted to send a message to dispatch, do you have a contact person for our pickup? You could go to this free form over here. You would just click that, and then you can just type in whatever you needed to ask dispatch or safety, and then you would just hit send. And so, like I said, it's really basic emailing kind of system. So this button right here is our home button. You basically push that and it takes you back to your main menu. Messages. As you can hear, she talks to us too. And the cool thing is, when you're using the messaging system, if you're driving, there's a little thing on the dashboard, and I'll show you a picture of that allows you to just push the buttons on the dash instead of trying to mesh with your Qualcomm while you're going down the road. And you can go to messages. You have zero only message. I have 0, and then if I did have a message, it would be highlighted, and I would just click the center OK button, and then she would actually start reading all the information off to you. Now, it's not perfect. She sounds like a robot when she's talking, but I can hear the cities. Like if I have a job offer that comes over, I can hear the cities and zip codes or pieces and weight, loaded miles, stuff like that. So I'll show a picture of that, how that operates. Messages. My light dimmed. Right here, this login. This is where if you drive as a team, you would swap drivers. Right here it says active, so you can see Heather's the active driver right now. So anytime, if I was gonna go to switch to my time, I would just highlight my name, click change, and then I would type in my password. Then that would make me the active driver, and then Heather goes in the sleeper and I take over driving for my shift. And then when it's time to go back to her shift, you would just highlight her name, change, and then she would take over, type in her password. Never want to put log out. Somebody always has to be one of the active drivers. You never want to hit log out unless you're actually switching trucks, getting into another truck. Maybe your owner bought you a new truck, or you're getting your own truck. That's the only time you would ever click log out. Or if you're quitting, you don't want to leave your information in on there. Home. This over here, it says sensor tracks. Basically, the only thing we use this for is it lets us track our mileage. This thing resets about once a week, sometimes twice. I think it depends on how many miles you've driven that week, but it gives you a bunch of like engine ramifications, or stuff about the engine. He says over RPM is 0%, over idle, over speed, cruise, how long you were in cruise control, how long you were in top gear. And then over here it says the miles driven, fuel consumed, and miles per gallon. Now this isn't, the miles per gallon isn't always accurate because it's an average for the entire week, but it kind of gives you an idea. If you're driving into the wind, you'll see this number start to drop. If you're driving with a good tailwind, you'll see this number start to climb. So it kind of gives you an idea. If you're driving into the wind, maybe slow it down a little bit so you don't lose as bad a gas mileage. So that's kind of what we use that for. The rest of this other stuff we don't really use. Just gives you a bunch of engine details of the PTO. We never use the PTO, but basically we just use this summary. Let me go back home.
Messages.
Now here, right here is our hours of service. Now I'll show you guys a few things about that. One thing you want to keep in mind is you always want to keep
9 minutes of remaining drive time.
We got 4 hours and 9 minutes remaining. I love how it talks to us. One thing you want to keep in mind is if this thing ever like stops working, we've had it happen to us a couple of times, you still want to keep empty paper logs on your truck, because if this thing goes down, you're required to automatically switch over to the paper logs until you're able to get this thing fixed or it starts working again. And another thing you would want to do is you want to call your safety department, because with DOT you're required to have the previous 7 days of logs. And this is another good reason to have a printer on your truck, is if dispatch or your safety can email your previous 7 days over to you, then you can print them out on your printer, and you have those to show DOT if you get pulled over. And then you'll have your paper logs also showing from the time the Qualcomm stopped working to whenever you got pulled over. So another good reason to have a printer. Make sure you have paper logs on you at all times. You won't have to use them just if this thing goes down. So this is basically letting you know our status, and it looks like we forgot to change Heather to off duty when we got to this Home Depot here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put her off duty. You just click change there. Then we got off duty, sleeper, driving, and on duty. So I'm gonna click off duty, and then I'm gonna type in waiting on load, and basically that just puts a note on my logs of what I'm doing. Then I would click OK. It's kind of slow. I mean, this thing is super slow sometimes. That's the one big pain in the butt about it, is it's so slow sometimes. Like it takes forever to get to the next screen after you do something on it. Oops, let me go back here. So basically right here at status it says off duty. Start time was 10:04, now it's 10:05. Gives you a basic rundown of your duty status right now. Miles driven today, hours to be gained if we're rolling over and not getting a 34. So just basic info. Right here is a summary. Says Heather's used 45 hours and 44, or she has, 45 and 44 minutes of remaining on duty time this week. She's driven a little bit today. 8-hour rest break. Gives you a rundown of, you have to take a 30-minute break after or before 8 hours of driving time. So that clock runs down and will let us know how much time we got remaining before we have to take that 30-minute break. Gives us 11 hours driving, 14-hour on duty, and then over here are our times, and it just has a little graph there. So, I mean, it's pretty simple to read. It's pretty nice. And then, I mean, this is just all your basic hours of service information. Gives you a graph for DOT. We've had DOT ask to see this before to kind of see what we've done throughout the day. Sleeper berth, on duty, off duty, on duty, driving, on duty. So it gives a kind of a breakdown of what you've done throughout the day for DOT. We never really look at this. The only things we really ever use is the status and the summary on that, and the rest of this is for DOT if they ever need to see that. Right here is approve. I'm gonna go ahead and edit that on duty time, since we forgot to change that when we got here to the Home Depot. So I got the on duty highlighted. What I would do is hit edit, then I can change this to off duty, and then you can either click this arrow button and it gives you a list of options: forgot to change, fuel stop, pre-trip. I'm just gonna put forgot to change. Then I would click OK. And that's going to edit that on duty time to off duty. Now, the only kind of status you cannot change is driving status. You cannot edit your driving status. Like this D stands for driving. It won't even let me click edit. So that's but like a lot of times if we jump out to go to the restroom or something real quick and we shut the truck off, as soon as you shut the truck off, it immediately puts you on duty. So if you forgot to put off duty and ran to the restroom real quick because you had to go real bad, you know, you can go back and edit that and put yourself off duty. So that's how you do that. And then load right here. Every time you pick up a new load, you got to put in all your load information right here. So the load ID would be the Panther's bill number, and then you would put the dates that you're going to be on this job. So 24th to the 25th was our last job that we did. Then you would put the bill of lading number. Right over here, you just put new load ID. I can change, say we're picking up on Friday and delivering Monday. You just use these little arrows to change it. I wonder if you can. Yep, you can actually type in numbers too, so that's pretty cool. And then bill of lading number, you put that, then you would just click OK, but I'm gonna click cancel. And if you mess something up, if you put a number in wrong, you could just go to edit, and you can edit the number. And so that's basically all the hours of service part. Let's see what else we got. Let me click. So next we got down here, this is trailer tracks. Now this is something we don't use because we don't pull a trailer. I'm sure guys with 18-wheelers probably have to do something with that. I'm sure like trailers that are tracked with the satellite, I'm sure they have like some sort of satellite on the trailers so they can track the trailer also. This DTTS, if you do DOD, this is something you'll use quite a bit. I can't click it active right now and show you all that information, but because we're not on a load. But basically you would just hit active, and there's a bunch of options on there you'll have to use when you're doing loads that require tracking other than Panther, like customers are tracking it. And it's basically the same thing as the messaging. You know, you hit arrived at a place, departing a place when you arrive at your shipper. But also what you have to do is anytime you stop for fueling, or if you're stopping for your 30-minute break, you'll have to send messages across that also, just basically letting them know where you're at and why you're stopping. So go down here and see what else we got. The rest is just stuff that we don't use often. System would be all your kind of like internal stuff, you know, tracking things. Let's take a look at it real quick. As you can see, it's super slow. Yeah, it's stupid stuff. Unread messages 0, all messages 0. Gives you the firmware that the Qualcomm's running if it needs an update, or you know, basic stuff like that. We really don't mess with too much of that unless there's like a major update that needs to be done, or if we have to call Qualcomm for technical support. We also got an alarm clock. It's pretty basic, you know. We never use this because we got our phones, so we basically use our phones as an alarm clock. But if you wanted to use this, you know, say you had to get up extra early and wanted to add an extra layer of alarm clock, you could set a bunch of, you know, different alarms up here, and that's pretty cool. And one more thing I'll show you is the settings. And we don't use this very much. One thing you will have to go in, you'll have to go into this every time daylight saving time changes. It doesn't update on its own for some reason with your time. So during spring, we'll have to go to and then change it to Eastern daylight savings time, and then during fall we change it to the Eastern time. So I don't know why they can't update it through the satellite like our cell phones do, but that's kind of weird. That's just, I mean, that's basically the most of it. If you've seen other Qualcomm videos, you know, everybody's got the solitaire and free cell, you know. Sometimes I'll play that while I'm sitting doing my 30-minute break, or if I'm just up here bored and watching all the truck stop riffraff. And so this is that on dash panic button that I was telling you about. That works along with the wireless ones that we got hanging from our doors. And then right here is the thing we use to if we're driving down the road and we get a message, or if we want to navigate through the Qualcomm, this is the thing you use while you're driving down the road. You got your home button,
Home. Messages.
you got your speak button. Push that, she'll start reading a message to you. And then it's got all your functions right here. You got your volume up and down. This is basically your back button if you want to go back a page, kind of like on an internet browser. And then this is the menu button. So it's pretty basic. This is what you would use if you're driving, and you never want to mess with your Qualcomm while you're driving down the road, because that could cause a bad accident, and we don't want that. But right. I hope that kind of answers some of your guys' questions. I know there's a ton of Qualcomm and E-log videos out there on YouTube. So if you guys got any questions about them, get down in the comments. You can send us an email. I hope you guys liked the video, and we'll see you in the next one.